So we'll get in a probably about 30-35 minute session now. And then the last prayer time is 7:30 something. I was going to check that when I went downstairs. So we might be doing 2 sessions or we might be doing 3 sessions.
Okay.
It's one of those things that it's the guiding, the guardrails of my life. Muslim prayer times, and everybody else, apart from Muslims, are blithely unaware of them. So,
well, the problem is every time I Google it, I Google prayer times Kitchener, and it gives me the times, and I'm pretty sure that it's not the site that Eddie uses that he sends you those times. So they're not the right times.
Well, they should be, or they should be close anyway.
Or my phone's automatically adjusting and adding an hour.
That's possible. That's possible as well. Okay, you've got a Jeff Seiler story, you said.
I do, but unfortunately, I went back in my email to 2005 trying to find a written copy of Jeff's version of the story, and my email doesn't go back that far anymore. So I have the story, but it's from memory, and as we all know, memory is 100% perfect, never wrong. So back in 2000,
especially about Jeff Seiler.
Back in 2005, at the Small Press Alternative Comic Expo, I exhibited for the first time, and all the Yahoos got together, and we all hung out and had fun, and that's when Jeff told the story that became Cerebus Readers in Crisis #1. And he also told us the story about sitting front row center for the Rolling Stones.
Right.
And we went, you should write these down. These would be great comic stories. And Larry Hart said, yeah, I'll draw them if you write them down. And then on that Sunday, when everybody was getting in their rental cars or on the shuttle bus to go to the airport, and Paul and I were packing up our car to drive back to Wisconsin, Jeff found a stray puppy. I forget her name. It was a young lady from Ohio who had come to the hotel where Space was at because one of the cooks in the kitchen, she was communicating with him, and they were madly in love, and they were going to, she was coming to visit so they could spend the weekend together type thing, and showed up and found out that A, he had to work, B, he wasn't single, C, 90% of what he said was a lie, and she was broke. She had no money to get home. Because it was one of these, come live with me type thing. And so she showed up, and it was, oh no, we're just going to hook up, and then you're going to leave, and I'm never going to talk to you again. And Jeff, being Jeff, wasn't going to let this lady-in-waiting who was damsel in distress, just lie. It was, okay, what can we do to help her out? And, he's going to all the Yahoos, explaining the situation, kicking up the money for bus fare, and I'm like, well, we're going north to go home. I'm sure it's on the way. I mean, she lives north. We're going north. It's not like it's going to be the end of the world. Yeah, I can just give her a ride home. And as Jeff Tundis and Jeff Seiler were walking away, Tundis turned to him and said, "Effing magnifier."
And that's where the name came from.
Meanwhile, I got in the car with this strange woman that I had never met, who obviously doesn't have a whole lot of life experience and does not make good life choices. And my girlfriend and I are driving her home. And yeah, she lives north, but she lives northeast, and we were kind of going northwest to visit my friend. So it's, okay, we'll take her along with us. And after about 5 minutes in the car, I'm like, nope, we're going to take her home and then go see my friend.
It was that much of a lady in distress, was it?
She gave us the entire story of what had happened to her and how she got there. And all I could think of was, this is a woman who makes poor life choices. Like, if we stop for gas, don't let her out of your sight, because she will come back with a new husband.
I guess Paula was terrifically impressed as well in the same sense.
It was we were in the front of the car. This lady, I can't even remember her name. I want to say it was Lisa, but I'm sure that's just my memory inserting a name. But yeah, she was sitting in the back, and I was like, okay, so what happened? Because, it was one of these, Jeff told the story, and the story didn't sound believable because it was Jeff. And...
Right.
And, I mean, you're like, no, that's not what happened. And no, that's exactly what happened. You wouldn't believe it if it didn't happen to you. And she started telling the story, and she was being very, she got more agitated as she described what happened with this guy at the hotel. And I'm like, okay, I don't want her taking it out on me. I'm driving a car. I don't want her taking it out on Paula because, they're sister, they're quote unquote sisters. They shouldn't, she shouldn't be get mad at Paula for, what happened with this guy. But at the same time, this woman's mildly insane, hence the driving or getting on a bus to come and be with this guy and finding out that, oh yeah, no, this was just a hit it and quit it. Like, I never want to see you again.
Right.
And yeah, like I said, about 5 minutes into the drive, it was, nope, we're going to take her right home. And then, of course, it's Columbus, and Columbus doesn't clearly label things, as evidenced by Jeff's story about missing the exit for the hotel one year with Gerhard in the car, and they started driving north away from Columbus into a state forest, and there's no turnarounds. And as they were driving, it was starting to rain, and Gerhard politely said, hey, I'm getting wet because this window won't close.
But he took a while saying it because he's a polite Canadian.
Yes.
So I can get sort of wet, and then it's like, well, even Canadians don't like to get soaked.
If I remember right, it was about 10 minutes of rain before Gary went, hey, Jeff, this window doesn't close. And I'm just thinking, if it had been me, I would have been like, all right, we got to stop the car. I'm switching to the front seat.
Right.
But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, great Jeff story.
I wish I had his version of it, because he had sent an email to the Yahoo group about, this is what happened at space. And like a short little 8-paragraph story of this is what happened over the weekend turned into, I think, like 30 or 40 paragraphs, because it was, and then I met this girl and I didn't want to leave her in the lurch, and that's what I piped up with. Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Speaking as the lurch.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start off with the facts that I got from the screenwriter. Hello, Dave Sim. I am a screenwriter who grew up reading Cerebus comic books. I would love to know what is happening with these characters. Are the rights by any chance available for a screenplay/film/TV? Thank you for your time and the many pages of joy and entertainment. Best, and I blacked his name out because I don't know if he's a well enough known screenwriter that he wouldn't want his name bandied about. The short answer to that one is the less you want to buy, the more likely it is that I would be willing to lease it to you. As an example, if you wanted to do a screenplay for film or TV that was Death's Dark Tread, Cerebus number 4, and you were going to take what I did there and expand it to 90 minutes, then that would be one amount of money that I would have in mind for taking out an option on that. If you wanted the rights to all 6,000 pages, then that would definitely be a different amount of money that I would be thinking of. That would be largely unimaginable in our age of truly inflated and getting more inflated all the time dollar dollar inflation casualties, if you said $1 billion for all of Cerebus for a renewable option, I wouldn't do it, because $1 billion might be what we're paying for a loaf of bread in another 7 years or so. And that would close off options for anybody else. So that's really the short answer on that one is if you're thinking as a screenwriter wanting to take out an option on a Cerebus intellectual property, the smaller don't have eyes bigger than your stomach. What kind of a screenplay can you do logically about a given chunk of the story? And this is something that I think I could probably keep saying until I'm blue in the face, but Hollywood people are not going to register what I'm saying, because Hollywood doesn't work that way. You're a comic book guy, so you should be happy to take whatever amount of money we're going to give you for whatever it is that we're interested in. And that would be, as far as I was concerned, just making an enormous amount of trouble for myself, because let's say in typical Hollywood fashion, they said, well, I want to take an option on the Cerebus volume, the first 25 issues. Well, okay, you're not going to get the first 25 issues comfortably into a 90-minute film. Even if you were doing a miniseries, a streaming miniseries, and you were doing 12 episodes, you would still be having to get 2 issues into each episode, or taking enormous chunks of the story out just because you don't have room for them, and then stitching the rest of it together, which then, if that miniseries turns into an enormous hit, then you're going to want to do High Society after that. And if you've left all of these giant chunks on the floor that apply to High Society in your Cerebus volume movie, then that's really not going to work. So
the best.
Go ahead.
The best way to describe this is an actual real world thing that happened. Of Peter Jackson made the Lord of the Rings trilogy of each of the 3 books is its own movie, and he dropped enormous amounts of the book to make those 3 movies. And then when he took The Hobbit, which is a short book, he added all this stuff that got cut out of the books to pad the Hobbit book into 3 movies. So if you're going to do Cerebus, maybe don't do Peter Jackson.
Right. Like we'll wait until we get to Melmoth, and then we'll put all of the High Society and Cerebus stuff that we didn't do in the High Society and Cerebus movie in Melmoth. The slightly longer answer to that is, send me your screenplay on spec. But the odds of somebody doing that are very slim as well. So it's one of those. This is probably not something that is possible to do, except in the conventional Hollywood sense, which doesn't make sense for me, because it would be exactly the logistical problem. Thank you for being such a popular media junkie that you had that perfect example right there handy like that there.
Well, it is kind of the classic blunder of, okay, the books are too long, we'll cut them down and make it work, and then it's, oh, there's this prequel book. Hey, we have all this other material we can throw in.
There you go. There you go. Hollywood won't take no for an answer. Okay, so moving on from there, pile of questions for February. We begin with a missive from the far-flung isle of Easton, Pennsylvania. It wouldn't be Please Hold for Dave Sim without a Michael R. question. What you talking about, Michael R.? Hi, Matt. Hope all is well with you and yours. I hope you enjoyed your vacation. Here's my question for Dave. Michael, hi, Dave. I hope you're on the mend and feeling better. Yes, I am. This is the first time, having been sick for 3 weeks, that I'm not bouncing back as fast as I usually have. And that presents the question of, is this just a more severe version of whatever it is that you've had before? Or are you just getting old and one of these times you ain't going to bounce back? Which, extending that to its logical conclusion, one of these times my solution for being sick, which is go to bed and sleep until you don't feel sick anymore. One of these times I'm just not going to wake up. And you know that you're getting to that age when people don't say, oh, he died so young. It's like, they don't say that about 65-year-old people. It's like, yeah, okay, didn't live to be 90 or anything like that. But, yeah, it's 65 years. Don't be greedy.
Well, the problem I have with that is that celebrities have died recently that are in their 60s, and I've seen more than one tweet of, so-and-so died, oh, it was so soon, and I'm going, the dude was 67. Like, have a little perspective. It's not like the guy was 27 joining the 27 club. He had another 40 years. Yeah. It was,
I've seen that a few times. Lately, that there is a contingent of people who are still doing the 65 is the new 20, and you do that as long as you think you can get away with it, because you're not going to get away with it for very long. So getting back to Michael's question, since you have had drawing limitations now, have you I started a reread of the Cerebus archive comic books. A big thing I noticed while you were getting to Cerebus's beginnings of the comic book was that you had written many short stories for money in the 1970s. So my question is, since you have had drawing limitations now, have you considered to be a hired gun freelancing short stories again like you did in the past and recently with Richard Starking's Elephant Men? I'm sure you must have many ideas for short stories, and I'm still sure that your mind for short stories is sharper than when Alex Raymond had to get his Series 7 number 2 brush to the finest point. Michael R., and then you've added, I've kind of wondered this too. Why not turn to prose? Like, why not write Fall in the River as a novel, or maybe a true crime novel set in the mid-'80s comic industry? Or, not. Yeah, that's definitely a not, because I'm 65 years old. It's not like I'm looking for new things to do that would satisfy me creatively. I'm a good 15 years older than Russ Heath was when I interviewed him and asked him about, or someone had asked him in another interview about what creative challenges does he picture for himself in the future, and he's going, creative challenges, I just want to get my gold watch and retire. And in my case, it's really, I hope I can get Strange Death of Alex Raymond done, but at age 65 and feeling the clockwork ticking down, it's, hope I have enough time left to do that. If I have enough time left to do that, and I'm still able to do Cerebus in Hell with a question mark, yeah, it would be interesting to do, one-shot comic books. Here's a story idea that popped into my head. This is maybe not the best drawing that I've ever done, but I did develop a technique with what was his name? Brian John Mitchell, who was a mini comics guy, and he wrote a script, and I did a master drawing for it, and then just shot different parts of the master drawing and put his text on the facing page. And actually, I think the last award that I got was a Space Award, runner-up for the mini comics category for the story that I did with him. Yeah, that would be interesting and enjoyable as a thing to do, but Strange Death of Alex Raymond is still, I'm learning how to get it under control. Parts of it are still telescoping on me, where once I start explaining it, then it's, okay, these people have no frame of reference for what you're talking about, Grandpa. This is something that you have been thinking about in your own mind on an ongoing creative basis. And you're going to have to explain all this before you actually get to the Strange Death of Alex Raymond punchlines that apply. And it's tying that in with age 65, nobody's going to say, well, he went so young. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, if you were to die tomorrow, there would be a contingent of us going, it was too soon. He still had 3 volumes of Sodor to finish.
Right. Right. I am noticing now, like I just came to an end of a section in Strange Death of Alex Raymond just before I get into the actual Ward Green-Alex Raymond collaboration, the meeting point between the two of them. And it's a real jaw-dropper, the last 8 or 10 pages that I've done. It's let's get full value out of this, because this is a real jaw-dropper. So, as it was with Cerebus, I would get to a section like that and then go, okay, well, if I'm going to get hit by a bus before I get this done, this would be the time to get hit by the bus if God's looking for suggestions. So that's the answer to your question, Michael. I'm really I have managed to close down that part of my brain that goes, hey, that would make a great short story, or that would make a great one-act play, because I'm definitely past that point. Permanently, that we don't know. It would be very interesting if I could, with the assistance of my patroness and hoping that Strange Death of Alex Raymond, Carson's version, is still able to generate, $1,000 a week to keep me doing Strange Death of Alex Raymond. It's nice to think that I could stay at the pace that I'm at now, which is 3 pages a week, 4 pages a week. And, 52 weeks in a year, that's still 200 pages. The whole works right now that everybody has read is, only about 200 pages, 250 pages. So, theoretically, I should have Strange Death of Alex Raymond done in another year or another 2 years. but this is really a riding the tigers subject that has been completely unpredictable all the way along in all of its aspects, and I'm really not anticipating that changing. So there you go. Thank you for this month's question, Michael R.
So the work you're doing, is it like, are you just doing mock-ups? Is it a script? Or is it like a weird amalgamation of some stuff's a mock-up, some stuff's just in script form, and some stuff you're actually drawing and inking?
No, it's all mock-ups. I take an 11 by 17 piece of paper, which is just a piece of paper, and as I did back in the Cerebus days, put a sheet of Letratone on it and then mark the corners that tells me this is where 10 by 15 is, and then take a blue pencil and hook up those four sides. So there's page that I'm working on, and then I take the previous page mock-up and put it next to it on the drawing board, and then go, okay, what does this page look like? And then I start typing. I read the previous page, sometimes the previous 2 or 3 pages to get the whole thrust of what I was doing. And then I have the laptop there, and then I just start typing what I have to say next in the form of captions. And then usually, one of the things that I've learned now is, okay, what is the punchline of this? This is the thing that I want to convey. Write that caption, and then figure out, okay, how many captions do I need to lead into that to have that have the most impact without really belaboring the point. So that's what I do, and then I print out the captions and then cut them off of the printed out pieces of paper and put double-sided tape on them, and then put them on the blank page, spacing them out, and then going, okay, what illustrations best illustrate what I'm saying in these captions? I usually have a completely different picture in my mind of the page while I'm typing it and while I'm thinking about it. Once the captions are on there, then that says, no, what I was picturing as the illustration, that's not the illustration for what I'm saying in the caption, enhancing what I'm saying in the caption. So that has to be a different illustration. And what illustration is that? And sometimes, and actually now most of the time, I go, okay, I know exactly what the picture is going to be. I just don't know what size the picture is going to be. And that's when I come upstairs and photocopy whatever it is that is the illustration, and then put that on the page with the captions, and then gradually start moving everything around, going, okay, this needs to be about 50% larger, and instead of the caption being up here in the corner, I'm going to move it down so that it's at this place on the picture that I'm working with, and that the eye will start there because that's the caption, and then it will look at this image, which is what I want everybody to look at next, and then read the Rip Kirby word balloon or whatever it is that I want them to read next. Sometimes the process takes most of the time just staring at the page and going, okay, what is it that best enhances what I've got in the caption, TV and staring at it and staring at it and staring at it and going, okay, well, let's try 140%, and then doing 140%, and sometimes that solves the problem, and sometimes it's no, I still got a next caption to go to, and that's too large. That's going to carry the eye in the wrong direction. In which case, I go, okay, 120 wasn't the answer. Let's go back to 100, and let's. Sometimes, it's well. Let's do the same image twice, and then shove that up into the corner, and put the captions further up on both of them. And if that's the solution, well, that's the solution. So the thing that I've learned with being able to get up to momentum with the patroness's assistance is don't try and do the whole page all at once. Cerebus pages, I would try and rough in the whole page. Instead of doing that, just do these three captions and just do the top third of the page, and then solve the middle third, and then solve the bottom third. And then when that process finally finishes, and sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes 2 days, where I've got all of the images, I've got all of the captions, and then I start reading the captions with the images and going, there's a better way of phrasing that. So because I've got the Qbert font, I'm not hand lettering, I can change the phrasing. Sometimes it's, okay, I figured out what the problem is. I've got this one caption that's this long, and if I break it down into 4 captions that are 2 words each, I can put those on a nice gentle curve through the panel, and that's what I've been missing, is something that conveys the staccato quality of the subject matter, which one caption doesn't do as easily or as effectively as little captions. Sometimes just 2 words in each little caption with a period at the end, which always drove Jeff Seiler ballistic, because it's not proper grammar. It's like, it's not proper grammar, but it's really good comic storytelling for what I'm trying to convey here. So that's the break point with that. And now I have to interrupt for my prayer time, but we can get right back to this if you've got more questions about. But yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, is locking up individual pages with photocopies and captions on them with double-sided tape. And once I've got everything in place and I've read through the page, and yes, there's no way that I can see to improve this. This is conveying what I want to convey. Then I take packing tape, transparent packing tape, which is 2 inches wide, and I put that across the whole page. Takes about 5 or 6 strips to go down the whole page. It means that the mock-ups will probably eventually rot, because I have no idea what, like, packing tape is not designed for archival quality. So that's, and I'm sure the double-sided tape will be bleeding through and turning brown. The point isn't to create mock-ups that will survive into the ages. It's to create mock-ups that everything stays where it's supposed to until Rolly gets here on Thursday, so he can scan them and then send them to the Patroness and Eddie Kana and Sean Robinson and Benjamin Hobbs, if it's a page that features stuff that he drummed up for me on the internet. Okay, I'm going to run along, and I will call you right back.
Okay. Talk to you then.
Talk to you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.